Every night the neighbors would hear it start, first a low rumble, then a vibration through the walls. Then something that sounded less like a sleeping human and more like a diesel engine running at full throttle inside a residential bedroom. 8 families moved out of their homes because of one man snoring. Not one family, not 2, 8. And the man responsible slept through all of it. His name was Melvyn Switzer. He was a 46-year-old man from Southampton, England. 225 pounds. An ordinary job, an ordinary street, an ordinary life. Except for what happened every single night when he closed his eyes, because when Melvyn Switzer fell asleep, something happened in his throat that science could barely explain. The tissues of his airway would vibrate with such extraordinary force that the sound emerging from his bedroom was not merely loud, it was a hazard. 87 decibels. Some measurements placed it as high as 92. Either way, the number was the same level as standing directly beside a running diesel truck. It exceeded the legal workplace noise limit in the United States, the level at which employers are legally required to provide hearing protection for their workers. And Melvyn Switzer's wife was exposed to it every single night in their bedroom. For years, she slept beside him or tried to. The truth is that nobody who lived near Melvyn Switzer got much sleep at all. The sound penetrated walls, it vibrated through floors. Scientists monitoring him reported clearly hearing his snoring from the corridor outside through closed doors. His neighbors heard it through brick walls. And one by one, they left. The first family moved out, then another, then another. Over the years, 8 separate households, 8 sets of people who had bought or rented homes near Melvyn Switzer, packed up and left because they simply could not live beside the noise. Before we go further, if you're finding this story as extraordinary as I do, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We find these incredible true stories every single day, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. To understand how Melvyn Switzer's snoring reached the level it did, you need to understand what snoring actually is, and why in some cases it goes so catastrophically wrong. Snoring happens when the airway becomes partially blocked during sleep. The muscles of the throat relax, the tongue falls back, and when air tries to pass through the narrowed space, it causes the soft tissues of the throat to vibrate. That vibration is the sound. For most people, this produces a mild rumble, annoying, perhaps disruptive, but manageable. For Melvyn Switzer, something in the anatomy of his throat, the size of his pharynx, the shape of his airway, the specific way his tissues vibrated, produced something in a completely different category. His snoring wasn't just loud, it was mechanically consistent, the same extraordinary volume sustained through hours of sleep, night after night, year after year. He couldn't control it, he couldn't fix it, he didn't even know it was happening, because Melvyn Switzer slept through every single decibel of it, while his neighbors lay awake with pillows over their heads, while families made the decision to uproot their lives and move away. While his wife lay beside the noise night after night, absorbing damage to her hearing that she would never fully recover from, Melvyn Switzer slept peacefully, blissfully, entirely unaware of the chaos his sleeping body was creating. By 1984, he had become locally infamous. Word had spread, and eventually it reached an organization called the Noise Abatement Society, a British group dedicated to measuring and reducing environmental noise pollution. They arrived at his home with professional recording equipment. They set up their instruments. They waited for Melvyn Switzer to fall asleep. And then they measured 87 decibels. Some equipment recorded as high as 92. Either way, the conclusion was identical. Melvyn Switzer's snoring was the loudest ever scientifically recorded by a human being. The Guinness Book of World Records received the data. They verified it. They added his name to the record books. Melvyn Switzer had achieved something no human being in recorded history had ever achieved before. He had done it in his sleep, literally. His reaction when told, he said he was surprised at first, then he couldn't believe it. Then, perhaps inevitably, he said he was proud. His wife had a different reaction. She had been sleeping beside this sound for years. One of her ears had suffered significant hearing damage, a direct consequence of sustained exposure to noise levels that exceeded every safe limit ever established. Her hearing loss was not temporary, it was permanent. A physical injury caused not by an accident or an illness, but by years of sleeping next to her husband. And she had stayed through all of it. Through 8 families fleeing the street, through the Noise Abatement Society showing up at her front door with recording equipment, through the measurements and the Guinness representatives and the reporters. She had stayed. When Melvyn Switzer was asked about his wife, about how she had endured what amounted to years of living beside an industrial noise source, he said she was a saint. He meant it absolutely. Now here is something that most people don't realize about snoring at this level. It is not merely an inconvenience, it is a symptom, and the underlying condition it points to can be genuinely life-threatening. At the volume Melvyn Switzer produced, the airway is not just partially obstructed, it is struggling. The body is working enormously hard to pull air through a space that is far too narrow. Over time, this places extraordinary strain on the cardiovascular system. People with severe untreated snoring are at significantly elevated risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. Melvyn Switzer's world record snore was not just a curiosity. It was his body sending a signal that nobody had known how to read. Eventually, his doctors found the answer. The technology available in the 1980s was limited compared to what exists today, but working with what they had, his medical team addressed the underlying issue. The anatomy of his airway, the obstruction that was producing the noise, the treatment worked. And the effect on his life was immediate and total. His snoring, which had driven 8 families from their homes, which had partially deafened his wife, which had earned him a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, came down to levels that allowed the people around him to sleep. He said afterwards that his marriage improved by 100% overnight. Think about what that means. The noise gone, the disruption gone, the weight of 8 families' worth of displaced neighbors gone. His wife, the woman who had lost hearing in one ear sleeping beside him, the woman who had stayed when everyone else left, could finally sleep in silence. Melvyn Switzer held the Guinness World Record for the world's loudest snore from 1984 until 1993, when a Swedish man named Kåre Walcott recorded a peak of 93 decibels during a hospital sleep study, 1 decibel louder. The record moved on, but the story of Melvyn Switzer remains extraordinary. Not because of the number, not because of the Guinness certificate, but because of what the number meant. 8 families, 1 partially deaf wife, years of a man sleeping peacefully while the world around him fell apart. And a woman who stayed through all of it. That is the real world record. Drop a comment below. Could you have stayed like his wife did? Or would you have been the first one to move out? We cover the most mind-blowing true stories from around the world every single week. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because you will not want to miss what is coming next. See you in the next one.